Because the big question on the table at the International Women's Day panel discussion on Friday was how to promote gender equality while promoting a transition to a green and caring economy, especially for women in Africa. The forum was Gender Leadership Awards of the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, or MIGA, a subsidiary of the World Bank. Let's share some of the conversations there with you.
Infrastructure projects have the potential to either perpetuate or alleviate gender inequalities. How can we ensure that infrastructure projects are designed and implemented to address the specific needs and vulnerabilities of women and the marginalized communities?
Well, maybe I'll come back to what Tsirideo said, because it's true that when you think about infrastructure, these are large-scale assets, projects, and it's a bit counterintuitive to say that, these projects will change how we perceive women or how we empower women, or vulnerable groups in general. But if we recognize from the offset that these assets will in fact change the lives of people, then you start thinking about these projects differently. And the first step is to recognize this, and then you can work on the different processes and procedures and tools to develop and implement in order to take these preoccupations of women, their needs into account within each project. But this takes time, of course, and at Meridiam we have the time to do this because we invest in, for very long periods of time. So that gives us, it's almost a luxury time today to be able to address these needs and engage with people and develop the project.
Socioeconomic, sociocultural issues as well, and it impacts women's rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. We see this when it comes to workload, especially in developing communities that are more vulnerable to climate. The workload is there, the limited, opportunities to participate in decision-making as well. And then when it comes to resources, the access to those resources, the control of those natural resources as well. Again, you have the climate impacts really exacerbating this. And two clear examples, where you have women responsible for household food, in terms of getting water, in terms of getting wood, you find out that because of climate change, you have degradation in the natural resources, and this causes women to have to go further in terms of getting, this water or food for their families. Now, what does this mean? You're spending most of your productive time going out to look for these resources, and this could also lead to what we're talking about, infrastructure now. You may find out you have to go further and go to new areas, more dangerous, safety issues as well come in play here. There's some research that has been done by IUCN, and it shows, for example, some work that was done in Kenya because of the recurring droughts. Over 85% of their energy, the substantial energy they spend is just out there looking for water, and this is really dilapidating for them. Another key example is whereby, and this is sociocultural norms, where if we cast our mind back to the tsunami in Sri Lanka, the impact, and again, women and young girls are 14 times more likely to lose their lives in climate-induced disasters. And that tsunami in Sri Lanka, it was really bad. Why? The skills for swimming, tree climbing, traditionally linked to men and boys for the kind of work they did. So this was a vital skill to survive, which the women didn't have. So you see climate-induced disasters and these sociocultural norms being exacerbated here. In terms of how do you address this, I think that was the second, I had like a really three-part question. But addressing this, the work we've done at the Commonwealth Secretariat, so the work we do through our Commonwealth Climate Finance Access, so we had to look at an evidence base. We looked at all 56 member countries' NDCs, so the nationally determined contributions, which are national climate plans, submitted to the UNFCCC to enact the Paris Agreement. We wanted to find out these key policy instruments on climate, how gender responsive are they? Now, looking at these, We were able to identify best practices. We built on that to find out what are the key things. And just very quickly, in terms of, I was happy to hear when we talked about policies, you have to have clear policy alignment, looking at how to have inclusive policy development. We touched on meaningful engagement, getting the insights and perspectives of women in decision-making as well.
Women today are the majority of the people living in poverty and extreme poverty. They disproportionately have unequal access to energy and electricity, and they're virtually all, I think it's safe to say, of the 2.6 billion people on Earth who still cook with traditional biomass. And as you've heard from Uzo, women also are more impacted by climate effects today. So we need to address these inequities as we think about climate finance. And we need to start by acknowledging that these decisions are not made in a normative vacuum. When we began this journey on climate adaptation and mitigation, I think a lot of funds were focused on being gender neutral or gender blind. But as companies like Meridiam have shown, we can't do that climate projects do have gender impacts, whether we intend them to have impacts or not. So how do we change this? I think that, first of all, let me say we certainly don't know everything, but here's what we do know. There is the how we fund projects and then what we fund. So in how we fund climate finance projects, we have to think about who are the end beneficiaries? We have to take a people-centered approach. The technicalities of emission reduction and so on are very important, but we have to consider where are the impacts, and we have to meet women where they are, which is traditionally in the informal sector, it's as small business owners, and it's in the household. Now, when we do climate finance projects, we need to take a gender analysis. We need to have a fully funded gender action plan, and we need to set metrics for ourselves, both qualitative and quantitative, on what the gender impact of the project is going to be. And then, of course, we need to measure these results and report on them. Now, what about the what we fund? So here's the good news. I think there are win-wins for both addressing climate and empowering women economically. So consider clean cooking fuels. By switching to clean cooking fuels, you're saving women's time in collecting fuel wood and in cooking, and you're improving air quality for the whole family. So, but just by doing this, it's been estimated that you could avoid 450,000 deaths each year in sub-Saharan Africa and save millions of dollars on healthcare costs. Or take the example of climate-smart agriculture. In many countries, women are primarily the smallholder farmers. So by spreading and deploying climate-resistant, drought-resistant, insect-resistant seeds, and then by investing in small-scale irrigation, you not only adapt to a hotter climate and more extreme weather events, but you're improving women's income and livelihoods. Or consider distributed renewable energy. So women and girls disproportionately lack access to energy, and it's typically in the home. So by doing distributed renewables at the village level, you're addressing household electrification. And one research study recently found that when households receive electricity, women are 20% more likely to then be able to work outside the home because of the time saved. So there are many examples, I think, of how we can address both the climate challenge and empower women at the same time.
I said something about time and, taking the time to do the work, to engage with the women, to engage with the vulnerable groups in order to identify their needs, their preoccupations, and the right solutions for them. And we don't have, across the board, throughout all our projects at Meridiam, only one way to do this. It has to be adapted because not everyone is the same. The context is always changing, always different, and we have to be comfortable with this. And that's what we do at Meridiam with the teams. We do a lot of capacity building. We do a lot of training and onboarding to make sure that they view this mission the same way than we do.